today I'm taking a look at the GL.inet Comet, a tiny IP KVM. So KVM stands for Keyboard Video Mouse. So this guy emulates a keyboard and mouse and captures the video from a target PC so you can manage that PC remotely over the internet. At least, that's what this thing promises. So if you want to see how well this thing works and how well I can manage my victim PCs, then come along on this adventure. Also, quick disclosure, GL.inet sent me these products for review. No money changed hands, and they won't see the review until you do. So this is the ATX control board option. So we'll take a look at that after. Here we've got the Comet itself, remote KVM, still in its box. USB cable and HDMI cable. Taking a look inside. Let's see, some instructions. Some more instructions. The unit itself, this thing is tiny. Okay, so this is like about the size of like a thick SSD. So we've got USB 5 volt 2 amps Ethernet. USB 2, now that's a device side. That shows keyboard, mouse, and HDMI. A button that does not appear to be power. Nothing. Okay, it says it's GL.KVM.local, that's nice to see. And in the box we've also got USB orange. I'm guessing this guy is for data maybe for power. And then flat Ethernet. So in addition to the two black cables that came in the kit. And of course we also have the ATX control board option. This is a separate product, I believe, but they go together. Okay, so this appears to be the board itself. We've got an assortment of headers, power switch, hard drive LED, power LED, reset switch, another USB Type-C cable, mounting screws. So we've got a low profile and a full height PCIe bracket. That looks like a Type-C connector. I like Type-C. And the board itself. So we've got basically two sets of these buttons. So one of these you connect to your case, and one of these you connect to jumper wires back to your motherboard. So it passes through power button, reset button, power LED, hard drive LED. They've got these three isolator chips here that go to whatever this chip is. That is Type-C, WCH, CH552T, I think is what it says. So that seems like it's a microcontroller with USB to me. So I believe they're doing real USB 2 over this. So they're not abusing the Type-C connector, which is nice because I hate Type-C abuse. So I'm ready to power this up and test to make sure it works. But as you guys know, I'm very security focused with these remote access devices. You're giving them a lot of access, low level to your hardware, especially if you give it ATX power control. You can reset it, reinstall operating systems, things like that. So I've got my MikroTik Hex. This guy is going to be doing packet capture for us today. We also need a victim PC. So today this guy is going to play the role of the victim PC. He's my Kali Linux box. He plays the victim a lot. So we're going to try to remote access him today. Okay, so this guy, he needs a power source. So you have to power him from USB. They say 5 volt 2 amps. He needs Ethernet. This is for extensions. So the ATX extension would plug in here. HDMI and victim USB. So I brought in power from another system. Got Ethernet from the packet capture setup. It came with a Type-C to C cable. My server has Type-C on the front. I'll plug that in. And this HDMI cable is rather long. We'll plug that in too. So I got my packet capture started. I'm going to plug this guy into power. I'm going to test it and we're going to see what happens. This guy is supposed to be at GL.KVM.local. This connection is not private. That makes sense. It's a .local. Let's go ahead. What is my... Oh, set up my admin password. Okay, so I got to give it a password. Yeah, we'll just take whatever Safari gives me. Probably should power on the victim. I forgot to do that. Okay, so looking at the window here, so settings. And we can rotate the monitor. That's neat. Probably don't want that though. Ooh, audio. There we go, system's coming up. Ooh, virtual keyboard. Oh, I can move it around too. Dark mode, we always want dark mode. Toolbox, paste text, shortcut keys, wake on LAN. So I guess if I added the MAC address, it would let me wake on LAN it, which is kind of neat. Accessories, got no accessories. Virtual media, I've got 5.7 gigs to add stuff. App Center coming soon, help, okay. The other side, we've got cloud service security. What do we got for security? Admin password, two-factor. Okay, so they're using TOTP, which is nice. So for some reason the resolution is showing up as 12 by 63, which is a very low resolution. There we go, 50 by 20. I have no idea why it's freaking out like this. Whatever's going on does not seem to like this HDMI signal. Guess we'll try to power cycle the victim. It did seem to work fine in the BIOS, so as soon as it came out of the BIOS, it went to all these weird resolutions. Not sure what's up with that. Okay, I'm going to try to plug in another KVM and see if the victim is working. Oh yeah, you're totally working. So I noticed down here I was trying 2560 by 1440 earlier. I wonder if that's what's up. No idea what's going on here. This thing doesn't seem to like the video being output anymore. It showed the BIOS screen initially, and I was able to mash delete and get into the BIOS, just not see it. Because when I plugged in the open interface, it was stuck in the BIOS setup screen. So I had gotten into the setup, I just couldn't see it. So not sure what's up there. It seems to be trying to negotiate 2560 by 1440, which is a really high resolution for a remote KVM. I would be running at much lower resolutions because, I mean, I'm on a tiny laptop screen, I don't need 1440p here. I'd also like to be able to configure that, so there's no setting for that in the GL.inet Comet. So let's take a look at the PCAP and see if we can find out why video is being weird. Okay, so first protocol DHCP, looks like I got the address 253. ICMPv6, I'm looking for a neighbor advertisement or neighbor solicitation for duplicate address discovery. So 750B, that's my laptop. 14A2 is also my laptop. 1AFD is the router. So I don't think there's any addresses here that aren't one of those three. So it looks like no IPv6 for this guy. So since we have no v6, let's look at the v4, see what it's doing on v4. Okay, so first thing it's doing MDNS. So it looks like it's advertising itself over MDNS to provide services and SSH. Interesting choice, but seemed reasonable. Next up, it did a query for ipv4.conman.net. What the hell is that? Well, it doesn't work, whatever it is. And then immediately reached out. Looks like it asked for online status. That page does something. Now it's pinging 8.8.8.8. I really hate when devices go out of the way to use a DNS server that I did not provide to the network. It's one thing if you don't get a DNS server from the network to hardcode some sort of fallback. But this guy's already received the network's DNS server. He's used that to look for conman.net, and then he's still pinging 8.8.8 anyway. I mean, it's not so much a security problem, it's just a poorly behaved device. Next up, he's asking for tool.GL.inet.com. Then he opens a session there to get his IP. Okay, next up, he's looking for gslbeu.goodcloud.xyz. Now that connection appears to be encrypted, so we don't know what he's doing. Whatever it is, it's called astrowarp.net, and it's signed by Amazon. No idea who AstroWarp is or what they're doing. I guess we could look at the website. AstroWarp. Define your own network with GL.inet routers. Oh, okay, so this is something GL.inet is making. Ports WireGuard, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so it looks like AstroWarp is some sort of tunneling solution that GL.inet has produced. I guess it would make sense to include this in their tunneling solution. I'm sure some of you would rather do your own tunneling solution. I, for one, would rather have it ask me before enabling any sort of cloud service, but at least it's not a sketchy service, I guess. Also, I would note it doesn't appear to have queried for that. So it asked for conman, it asked for tool, and it asked for good cloud, and then it asked for NTP pool, Google Stun much later. But it never asked for AstroWarp. So they must have hard-coded some sort of starting IPs for AstroWarp. Does that make sense? or they got it out of band in one of their HTTP sessions to like tool.GL.inet or something, but it's odd. Oh, okay, so this guy that's Astro Warp, he is actually from the good cloud query. So GSLBEU good cloud at XYZ, that is pointing at Astro Warp. So now we're pinging Google DNS again, and we're doing NTP. NTP is a good thing. Reaching out to the public NTP pool is a very normal thing for stuff to do. If you get NTP provided by the network, ideally you should use it, but that's much less commonly provided than DNS, so it makes sense for them to go to the NTP pool. So now we're going right away and asking for stun.google.com. We're doing a classic stun binding request. Okay, so here's the connection from the laptop to those guys. So they're using TLS 1.2 that gets upgraded to TLS 1.3. It looks like the whole thing is running over TLS 1.3. There's no datagram going on. Okay, so I found the packets going from my laptop to this guy. They're all TLS 1.3. There's no datagram TLS, no WebRTC. So to me, that means they're probably not using LAN connectivity, even though I have it. They're probably going up to the cloud and back. Maybe they're not using WebRTC, but it'd be really weird to not use WebRTC for this kind of thing. Okay, there we go. We forced it to use our local connection. Okay, I'm going to watch Raid Owl's review and see if his worked, because I cannot get video streaming to work on this thing. New idea. I'm going to try another mini PC and see if this one is giving it problems. Okay, so I'll move over my HDMI and my Type-C. Somehow this guy is running at 46029 by 231. I'm sure that's not right. Stream is active. Keyboard free. Mouse free. Come on. Work. I'd also like to point out here that DTLS is not really going a lot. So if I refresh the page, I'll get a new DTLS negotiation, but then it won't send data. Yeah, so here's live view, so it's trying its best, but this is not the number of packets I would expect if video is actually flowing. Okay, well let's try beta firmware and see how that works. So let's give it a try with beta firmware and see if this works better, if we can get it to work with our victim. Okay, 2560 by 1440, 64 kilobits. This screen came up, but I cannot navigate it using my keyboard and mouse. There we go again. 10 by 58, 0 kilobits. What the hell? So I'm up here testing with my Windows workstation because it runs Windows. And I noticed in Raid Owl's review of this same thing that he tested on Windows and didn't have any problems at all. So I thought maybe there's some sort of operating system dependency here. Like it's negotiating EDIDs improperly or something that only works in Windows. And guess what? It works just fine in Windows. So here, this is it in Firefox, showing itself. So I've mirrored displays 1 and 3, so 3 is the KVM, and 1 is my monitor. So I'm not using the emulated keyboard and mouse, this is just with my regular mouse and keyboard, but seems to be working. And here it even lets me set EDID, it didn't let me do that before. That must have been a feature of the V1 beta. So there's some sort of Windows jank going on here. Well, it's nice to know that it's at least not completely broken, it's just mostly broken. Okay, so now that I know it's not just me, and it actually does work, but only with Windows, and sometimes with the BIOS, but not always, we're going to try macOS. So I've got the beautiful hub mouse. It's a USB and HDMI Type-C hub that sits inside a mouse. And it's also the mouse's dongle, too. Wow, it works. Look at that. Surgeon 2560 by 1440. Okay. What if we set you to not such a stupid high resolution? Then do you work on Linux? Oh my gosh, that was it the whole fucking time. So it seems like now that the beta has added support to change the EDID, changing it down from 2560 by 1440 to 1080p makes it work in Ubuntu again. So let's try into Kali. Okay, so it's definitely a problem at 2560 by 1440. Still have no tablet, so that doesn't work. My mouse cursor is not mousing. Okay, so they're trying to capture 2560 by 1440, and they're unable to handle the display bandwidth that comes along with it. I believe that's what's happening. So when this system negotiates 2560 by 1440 on Linux, somehow it's not able to capture that and it just freaks the fuck out. So turning it down to 1080p, which is now an option in the beta firmware that wasn't in the firmware it shipped with, seems to work okay in Kali, except the touchscreen still doesn't work in Kali. So given that it kind of sort of works now, let's try to boot into a live Ubuntu ISO, because it should be able to do that, right? So I have 5.7 gigs to work with. That's not much. Got an Ubuntu ISO here. Let's drop that in. Ah, too big. Fuck. Okay, I got a smaller one. There we go. 25 minutes to upload. 3 megabytes per second. Let's try a URL instead. And we'll do Xubuntu because it doesn't have space for regular Ubuntu. And you're connected on wired Ethernet. Why are you so slow? Okay, so I don't want to wait 30 minutes for this 4 gig ISO to download onto this little thing. That was probably because I'm on Wi-Fi and the data is coming onto my laptop and then going over HTTPS. So I plugged my laptop into the network over gigabit Ethernet, and I turned off Wi-Fi and I reloaded the page and all that stuff, and I am still getting 4 megabytes per second. So whatever eMMC they're using on this thing just can't write faster than 4 megabytes per second. So loading an ISO, no matter where it comes from, it's going to take at least 20 minutes. I mean, you could use like a sub 1 gig minimal ISO, then it'll only take like 8 minutes, but it's not great. Like 4 gigs for an ISO is not that big. It only has like 5.5 gigs of storage, which is not enough for a Windows ISO. So you're going to have some sort of minimal Linux ISO to even fit on the storage of this thing, and you're going to have to wait 20 minutes for it to download. Okay, the download finally finished, so let's mount this guy as an image. It's a CD-ROM. Yes, you mount. Why would I open this PC on the remote device? This is very odd. Okay. Yeah, so you're mounted. You use 1920 by 1080 because the defaults don't work correctly, and let's go. So I should be able to spam the delete key and get myself into the BIOS so that I can pick my virtual image. Come on. Coming up. So the open interface is coming back. Let's see what the hell it's doing now, because I can't see the screen again. Okay, so it was in the BIOS, it just couldn't see it. So let's boot from Linux File CD Gadget. Okay, so now I'm going to switch back. So file mounting worked, display, not so much. Let's try lowering the EDIT even further. So 1024 doesn't work. How about we try, well, I guess that's the lowest we have. This is not helpful at all. So I have no idea how to write a custom EDIT, so I guess we'll go back to 1920 by 1080. And we still got nothing. So I switched back to open interface, and it is still working just fine. I know some of you might be blaming my test system here. So this guy, I'll give it a bit of a description for you. This is an ASRock Desk Mini A300. So this is an AMD A300 chipset, small board. It's an AM4 socket, and I have a socketed mobile CPU, I guess, a Ryzen 2400G, I think, or 3400G. So these were the desktop APUs from the Raven Ridge family. I haven't had any problems with it. I've used the same mini PC to test all of my KVM reviews, and none of them had problems either. As for display, this guy's got VGA, DisplayPort, HDMI. I'm plugged in at HDMI. All 3 of these come straight off the CPU. So in socket AM4, there are 3, not 4, DisplayPort links directly in the socket. So they've taken one of those and converted it to analog with a DisplayPort to VGA converter. And the other 2 are just doing HDMI and DisplayPort natively from the CPU, which is a pretty standard way of doing things. As for software, I mean, I guess you could blame Linux, but the BIOS doesn't work either. And the whole reason you buy a KVM is so you can get into the BIOS, because otherwise you just use like Windows Remote Desktop or something like that. So yeah, it's kind of a problem that the video doesn't work in this thing on this machine. I mean, I tried another machine, you guys saw, I tried the Mayunda. Maybe the Mayunda has problems. I found the Mayunda didn't like doing DisplayPort and HDMI on the opposite ports. So it didn't like using HDMI on the DisplayPort port, which is technically allowed by DisplayPort standards. I tried that computer over there, I got nothing. I tried my Mac and it worked fine. So something about the GL.inet Comet just is not reliable. There are some firmware bugs or hardware bugs or something, I don't know, in how they're handling HDMI, where just some HDMI sources don't play nice with this and it can't figure out what to do. Also, this guy is still booting up, so that is quite a long time later. So I have a feeling that like 4 megabyte per second write limit on the eMMC in this thing is also going to apply to reading as well. So it's taking a very long time to boot Xubuntu from the emulated image here. I would not want to wait this long if I was trying to fix a PC. I mean, I guess technically it works, it's just slow. Should probably check Nmap as well. Looks like we have 3 services open: SSH, HTTP, and HTTPS. So what do we get with SSH? We get asked for a password. So I'm going to paste in my web password. This is the one I set up for the web server. And looks like that worked. We're in. So SSH does have the same password as the web interface. That is nice to see. It's not just open as a free-for-all. Good on these guys. They did something right. I don't even have to log in over SSH because I can come over here to Toolbox and click Access Terminal. And then I am here running as root. Let's see, so some of our stuff is symlink to BusyBox. Some of it is symlink to core utils. So it claims we have ash and bash. That's an interesting combination. Okay, so we have BusyBox 1.27.2 compiled just a couple days ago. We also have core utils, which also has some of these programs. Not sure why we needed both, but I guess we got them. We also have the real IP. And again, there's no IPv6 enabled here. So can I add a v6? No, operation not supported. I don't even have a v6 loopback either. It must be disabled in kernel. Yeah, so there's no proxysnet IPv6. It's just gone. So they compiled the kernel without IPv6 in 2025. It's a sad state of affairs here. It's also not the most recent kernel, 4.19.111. 4.19.111, SMP preempt, blah, 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 blah. So that's a old kernel. Okay, as for processes, what do we got going on? We got init, mount exfat. Oh god, exfat, why? Dbus, Avahi, dropbear, nginx. So they're using nginx to deal with TLS, it must be. Bluetooth, why is Bluetooth running? KVMD main. RKNN server, Rockchip neural net. KVMD did not appreciate being helped. Okay, KVMD is a Python app, which sits in userlib Python 3.12 site packages KVMD apps KVMD. So looks like they're managing packages with pip. That's a choice. KVMD is version 4.16. Interesting. Fun fact, PyKVM calls their daemon KVMD. If I look under their releases, you can see they're on 4.17. How far back do I got to go to get 4.16? Here we go. 4.16 was released in September 2024, so they must be running this version of PyKVM under the hood. So, given that they appear to be running a several-month-old version of PyKVM, or something based on that, I'm wondering if they're correctly adhering to the GPL. PyKVM is, of course, GPL3 licensed. Do you have any license information here? Maybe help document? Okay, so you say version 1.1.0 beta 1. Well, nothing on this page about GPL compliance. Taking a look at what sockets we have open. Someone has bound to port 34.392. It's called Janus. Okay, so Janus looks like he's pointing to some config here at CKVMD. Don't touch this file, otherwise your device may stop working. Use override.yaml to modify required settings. Yeah, it sure looks like they've used software based on PyKVM and done some of their own stuff. Despite that, if I load their page, it says the main page is written by Shuafei Han and file path GL.KVM frontend index.html. That just loads the JavaScript. So maybe they did write the JavaScript themselves. So it looks like they may have written their own web UI front end, but they're using KVMD and KVMD Janus on the back end. That's what does WebRTC. So maybe that's why it doesn't work, because it didn't port it correctly. But also, they don't appear to be doing GPL compliance properly. So they've provided me with a unit here, and under the terms of GPL3, they're required to provide me source code if I ask for it. So if I email them and ask for the source code, what's the chance that I'll get it back? Okay, so they do have a repo on their website that says they will release the GL.KVM code here. But they haven't done that. So they do have a GitHub repository where they claim they will eventually post their code someday. I guess I have a pre-release unit, so Take with that what you will, but it's actually just based on Pi KVM anyway, and they didn't disclose that, and they haven't published their sources for GPL3 compliance. So yeah, that's great. Okay, well, so let's take this piece of junk apart. I guess there's going to be 4 screws under here, because that's what I would do. This case is very nice. I wonder if it's machined. So it's got these built-in standoffs. It'd be a lot of work to machine, but it feels like metal. It wouldn't be a lot of work, but it'd be more than I would do. I guess it could be die cast. Okay, here's the bottom of the board itself. So I've got 2 ICs. One's WinBond, that's memory. This guy, I guess he's also memory. Probably one's flash and one's DRAM. It's a little bit stuck. You can see tooling marks on the bottom, so that means this enclosure must have been machined. Well, I guess those could be tooling marks on the die, but they're definitely tooling marks. There's also 3 areas that appear to have been masked from anodizing. Those correspond to these 3 EMI gap pads here. As for hardware, this is a Rockchip RV1126, and we've got one more WinBond memory chip. This has a metal shield over, whatever that is. It's probably the HDMI capture device. And this guy here's got the little Realtek crab, so he must be Ethernet. Okay, I'm just gonna put it back together now. So I guess that's where things stand with the GL.inet Comet. It seemed to work fine on my Windows machine and my macOS machine. It is not reliable at all in terms of dealing with different video sources. I've tried 3 different Linux machines down here, and none of them worked out of the box. Even with the beta firmware, it only sometimes works. It's hit or miss. I just can't recommend this thing until they figure out how to fix their firmware issues dealing with video input. So I mean, video input is a critical part of an IP KVM like this, and the fact that it's unreliable is a hard no for me. Other things to consider: this does not do IPv6 whatsoever. No IPv6 coming out of this guy. I don't know if that's on the roadmap or anything, but it doesn't do it right now. The emulated storage, it does not have a lot of storage to work from. There's about 6 gigs on board, so it's probably an 8 gig drive, and they're using some internally. And that's just not enough for any large ISO today. If you have to deal with Windows, it's not going to fit. If you deal with Linux, you can deal with minimal images that install from the internet, things like that. That's okay. It's also incredibly slow, like 4 megabytes per second, which is kind of unusable, especially if it's going to take you 20 minutes to boot up and 20 minutes to download the image and stuff like that. Not fun. There's no other way to do image emulation, so I don't appear to be able to plug like a real high-speed drive into the GL.inet. I guess I could just plug it directly into the system, but then I wouldn't have access to it remotely. So there's no way to upgrade the storage. The USB port appears to be for the ATX. I didn't review the ATX because I am sick of this thing already, how poorly it works, so I'm not going on to ATX power from here. What else? It calls out to their cloud service. It establishes TLS connections to their cloud service, even when I haven't enabled the cloud yet. I don't know why, I don't know what it's doing. I didn't try to enable the cloud because you have to download a desktop app for that, and I'm not going to do that for you guys because not something I want to run. If you like more KVM reviews, the Open Interface is currently my favorite USB-based one. The Jet KVM is currently my favorite IP-based one. The Jet KVM is now on sale. I probably have a video up here on the Jet KVM. I've made 2 on it already. I like it very much. The Open Interface is USB-based, which is great if you're tweaking things locally. I like that as well. I have a Discord server linked down below for that. You guys can chat with me there about Linux, stuff like this, etc. I have a Ko-fi. If you want to give me any tips, I greatly appreciate that. Thank you very much. It's kind of like a Patreon, except it's only a one-time thing and not recurring. And as always, I'll see you guys on the next adventure.